Hey everyone, I'm so excited to introduce you to someone really special today. This is Dana Elia, and she's a functional integrative dietitian. And I am talking with her today about the topic of intermittent fasting. So I know that's something that's kind of been a buzzword lately, and of all experts, this is the person that can really help us to understand that. So, Dana, can you tell us what intermittent fasting is?
So, intermittent fasting is a eating practice where you're restricting your calories for a period of time, doing it intermittently.
Mm-hmm.
Fasting really isn't a novel idea. It's been around since the dawn of time. Fasting has been around. All major religions also have
Mm-hmm.
some element of fasting in their philosophy. So there's a couple of different styles
Mm-hmm.
of intermittent fasting as well. So some of the more common styles are time restricted feeding, where you're actually eating your meals within a feeding window, and then fasting for an extended period of time. So 16 and 8 seems to be one of the most common forms of time restricted feeding, where you're fasting for 16 hours and you're overnight, so your sleep time gets lumped into your fasting period,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're eating your meals within an 8 hour window. There's something else called 5 and 2, so that's where you're for 2 non-consecutive days of the week, you're restricting your calories to about 500, and then also keeping it within a small window of time, and then fasting for the remainder of that 24-hour period. And then the other 5 days of the week, you're eating a healthful diet. Um, and then there's also alternate day fasting as well, which some people will do the 5 and 2, or another element is being able to do a full 24-hour fast.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the three major, the time window, the alternate day fasting, or also called eat, stop, eat, where you're doing 24 hours on and then 24 hours feeding, or the 5 and 2.
Okay.
And then there's also another element called fasting mimicking diets, which is different than intermittent fasting. So, a fasting mimicking diet will actually put you into ketosis. So, your body thinks it's fasting, but you're actually eating a structured, specified diet that the range of the macronutrients that are including in those types of plans
Mm-hmm.
uh, mimic fasting, so your body thinks you're actually in a
So
fast
you're
for the
eating all
period.
day, but the types of foods you're eating make your body think that
Right,
it's not getting
right. So you're
food.
kind of
Yeah.
tricking your body into thinking that you're fully
Yeah.
fasting, but the constituents of the meals that you're eating keep you
Yeah.
in a fasted state.
So what are the benefits of intermittent fasting?
So the main benefits are really cellular activation. Autophagy is really your body's cellular way of cleaning house,
Hmm.
of removing older cells and regenerating newer, healthier cells. So that's one of the main benefits of
Wow.
fasting. It also improved sleep, improved focus. A lot of times people will report that their energy level is much better in the
Mm-hmm.
fasted state or as they begin a fasting practice.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, weight loss. But I think for a lot of people, they're using it more for the longevity aspect of it
Hmm.
because of the benefit that it has
On cells.
on
Yeah.
cellular health and
Mm-hmm.
regeneration. So
Mm-hmm. What's the difference between the different fasting protocols as far as how do you know which one would fit you better? The 5 and 2, the 16 hours, 8 hours. How do you know which type?
right. And that's really a personal choice. I always encourage people, if you're going to consider using fasting, you want to make sure that you're working with a knowledgeable practitioner
Mm-hmm.
to, one, make sure that there's no contraindications for
Mm-hmm.
fasting. So, children shouldn't practice intermittent fasting, pregnant, lactating women. If you have multiple diseases, you may not want to do it. Polypharmacy or lots of medications, you really want to talk to a knowledgeable clinician. But there are populations and diseases that it's been shown to benefit. So
Mm-hmm.
cardiovascular disease, diabetes, but you want to make sure you're doing it structured and managed with a clinician. A couple of questions that you want to ask yourself is to determine what type of program or which style of fasting would be best
Mm-hmm.
for you is, what are your current eating habits like? Are you somebody who is eating from the moment you wake up to a half hour before bed, and how can you gradually begin a fasting window. So I think for most people, just getting their feet wet in fasting, doing a time restricted feeding might be an easier option. It's a little bit more realistic. Starting off with a 12-hour fast, and then every few days kind of lengthen that fasting window, go to 13 hours, then bump it out to 14. See if you can get yourself to 15 to 16 hours fasted. If you're somebody who doesn't want to have a fasting window every single day, then maybe the 5 and 2 option is a better choice for you. That way, 2 non-consecutive days. You would also want to make sure if you're doing that 5 and 2 style, those fasting days are also your rest days from any sort of physical activity or workout. You don't want to be working out on the days that you're only consuming 400 to 500
That's
calories.
on the 5 to 2 program.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. The nice thing about the time restricted feeding is there technically is not really a caloric restriction.
Right.
But during your feeding window, it doesn't mean that you want to be going to, the buffet or, a drive-through fast food chain. You still want to be making healthful choices during that feeding window.
Yeah. So how does, say we just talk about the feeding window, the 16 and 8, how does it affect us metabolically so that we lose weight? Like what happens when we're doing that?
So because you're fasting, it actually increases your metabolic rate. So, it's been a common misconception that skipping meals is equated to metabolic suicide, or that caloric restriction is the better way to go with weight loss. The research has shown that caloric restriction overall actually lowers your basal metabolic rate, where fasting, because of the processes that it stimulates in the body, it actually increases your metabolism. And increases your metabolic rate.
So then having 16 hours to increase your metabolism is what eventually leads to the weight loss.
Since you're fasted for 16 hours, you're actually going to be tapping into your fat stores. You'll be getting into a slight ketosis, ketotic state. So because by the time you're hitting about 12 hours fasted, you're really burning through or using up your glycogen stores in your liver and your muscles.
Yeah.
So that's where getting to at least 14 hours is a good goal.
So what results have you seen with like some of your clients working when you started using intermittent fasting?
So the patients that I've discussed this type of approach with, we determine what style of fasting is best for them. Overall, though, the results that I hear, time and time again, increased energy, better sleep, better focus, and the weight loss. So, and again, the research has shown that, folks who are intermittent fasting there's been some studies that looked at a 12-week period, and they can expect about a 7 to 10 pound weight loss over the course of 3 months.
Wow. So one thing I think a lot of people wonder is, can you drink anything when you're in the fasting? Like, what about things like coffee and tea?
So you can drink water. You can drink water with a slice of lemon or lime with it. Coffee, yes, preferably black coffee, plain tea. There's a little bit of a debate as to whether or not adding like coconut oil or a little bit of butter, or even using some heavy cream. If you're going to do any of that, there is the potential that might technically throw you out of your fast.
I see.
If you're going to put something in your coffee, you absolutely want no sugar, so you do want it to be a pure fat, and keeping it under 50 calories. So there's a little bit of a debate. I would encourage folks just stick with black coffee, plain tea. Limit it to 1-2 cups max, because then you're also potentially activating a whole series of other endocrine concerns that will impact your metabolism.
From the caffeine?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're better off just sticking with water or like an herbal tea, something.
What about mineral water?
Mineral water's fine as well.
Okay, what about, so you addressed the beverages, what about things like mints or gum, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I would encourage people to refrain from those. So most chewing gums or mints will have a few calories in them. If they're ones that are using the artificial sweeteners, while it's technically calorically free, it's actually going to be triggering the area of your brain that's going to cause you to be hungry and to crave. So you're better off just sticking with calorie-free beverages, plain water, the coffee or the tea. You don't want to be using diet sodas or diet drinks, anything with the artificial or the non-nutritive sweeteners. So that includes your stevia, your monk fruit. I wouldn't do any of those artificially sweetened beverages, gums, things like that, because you might be causing you to crave more sugar, which, unfortunately, when you're fasting, the last thing you want to do is
be craving sugar.
Is do something that's going to cause you to crave, especially sugars. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, thank you so much, Dana, for helping us understand more about intermittent fasting. And there you have it, folks. Intermittent fasting for cell activation, cell regeneration, improved sleep, better focus, increased energy levels, and weight loss. I know that intermittent fasting is something I have really seen benefits of in my life. I personally do a 12-hour window and have really seen increase and improvement in my recovery and also my metabolism. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to Dana. I'm sure she would love to coach you, or you can post them on this post below. Thanks.